knowing my will aligned. Through the grit and grime, I carve my path, earning every dollar, feeling the aftermath. Power in my hands, strength in my soul. I'll keep pushing on.
That's right. Speaking of pushing on, this is a very special broadcast of DGP Radio, lubrication across the nation, and one of the greatest pushers in the game is with me today, Scott Herzuski with Acme Landscapes. How you doing, brother?
Pretty good. Thank you, Russell, for having me on, man.
Thank you for joining me. I appreciate you making the time. I know you're a busy bee with all the things going on. You're a man about town these days.
Try to be, definitely.
How are things up in for those that don't know, don't follow Acme? I don't know who that would be because I think everybody does already. But just in case, Acme Landscapes, go on Instagram, check them out, and the other places. But follow along in the journey. Scott's a great guy. I've been doing lawn care for 40 years. How long you been doing it now?
Don't put my childhood ages in there. Come on. I've been doing it for 30 years. Yeah.
I was close.
Yeah. Oh,
what's
extra?
What's a decade between landscapers? Come on.
Right.
A decade's like a day, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. What's 10 more years, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So, and up in the greater area of Ohio, for those those of you who are not familiar with it, are you from Ohio originally and all that kind of jazz?
Yep. Born and raised in Ohio. Literally, I was born, I don't know, it's like 3 towns away. And then kind of grew up in like the main city that's 2 towns away. So kind of been here all my life and kind of moved out towards the country where I'm, a lot more peace when I'm not at work and a little secluded. So that's the nice thing. But we do service, one of the outside towns and we enjoy what we do for them. So.
Yeah, I've been doing it for a minute now. I mean, you and I was trying to remember earlier today, how long have you got, do you know how long we've known each other? I was trying to remember how long it's been.
At least 10 years.
Yeah, I know it's been a long time.
Back to the other radio station that unnamed station that I won't name.
It no longer exists. It's okay.
Yeah. I would say at least 7 or 8 years.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking somewhere. I was like trying to guess around like 8 to 10 or somewhere in that general vicinity. But it's been a while. It's been a while.
Oh yeah, it is.
How are things up in Ohio? You guys, how's your season been up there? I mean, has it been, because it seems like everybody's had like a wacky season this year. Has it been the same for you?
Yeah. Our season started out really good. Coming out from the winter where we did have some good winter for a little bit, and then it just kind of fizzled out. So, and it just kind of stayed cold for longer than what we wanted to. And sometimes after you do snow for so long, you kind of get used to like just taking that break and just not getting out there. And you see all the sun's out, and you're like, man, I really could be out there doing cleanups. But it's only like 45 to 50 in the morning. I don't even know if I want to try to attempt it. So it took us a little bit longer to get started. And then plus we were doing a side project for one of our customers. We do a little bit of construction work during the winter. So that kind of keeps us busy. So we were doing that. And next thing you know, we just hit ground running. And it actually, the rain stayed away enough to where we get our cleanups and get started right on time. So nice. That helped out real good. And we had a couple hiccups of rain for a while there, but it wasn't where it just took us out totally for a whole week, which is just amazing because sometimes, if that rain comes in and it takes you out for a whole week, you're just kind of like swamped and you're like, what do I do to try to catch up?
Yeah, that's rough because you get, not only are you behind, but the stuff is twice as tall and it's just,
Right. And then spring came in and we bought some new equipment so that way we could just make sure things went smoothly throughout the year. And that is something that I do definitely recommend. If you can do it, every couple years, try to replace a piece of equipment. Even if it's a small piece of equipment.
Oh, for sure.
Onto a big piece of equipment. I've been trying to do this for like the last 5 years, is take one piece of equipment and say, okay, well, we're going to replace this one in 5 years. And knowing that, it's kind of helping out to where we're, it starts to break down and not want to run no more. You're like, okay, well, good thing I just bought that one, because now I don't have to worry about that one.
Yeah, you're prepared a little more. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So that kind of helped us out get through the spring, and summer kind of got warm and hot. And then it kind of dried up, but with a lot of our customers have irrigation systems. So, we're still being able to mow
nice.
and do stuff for them. And we do mow about 45 clients. I think out of all 45 clients, I think like maybe 6 don't have irrigation.
Okay, so you're rocking then.
Yeah, but they love the stripes, the ones that don't. So it's like,
of course,
you could show up and it could be dry, and they'd be like, well, that stripe isn't there from last week, so could you redo that? So we haven't had no skips this year, which is awesome. That's awesome. They like, a lot of our customers support us. But then we also do about 200 other customers with prunings and fertilizations and irrigation system startups. So, we've been keeping busy as heck. And just recently kind of got down from where we had a running list of probably like 60 jobs per week to get done on top of our mowing, where we're now down to about 10. So it's kind of actually slowed down a little bit of work.
Nice.
But it's more of a thing of where a lot of our customers will see us and be like, hey, I want to put in 2 trees. When can you do it? When can you when can you prune again? I know you just pruned 2 months ago. I want to get it repruned. I want to get it shaped up, or can you, put some more mulch over here, or add me a new bed for here, or add a garden bed for me. So it's been actually pretty good that we've been, keeping busy, and our customers realize that we're there to do anything for them. And that's a plus. So,
right on. Yeah, that's really cool that you guys have had that one, because I know a lot of places it's just been nuts. I know, like, the season out here is just, I don't know. It's been like we had a drought for like the first probably 2/3 of the summer, so like just crazy, because nothing was. I mean, I was at the point where, I mean, I don't do the landscaping stuff as far as a job anymore, but I take care of a couple of my neighbors' places because they're older, and the last thing I want is somebody like our neighbor. If it gets like, I don't know, above 4 and like 1/8 of an inch or 1/32 of an inch, she's out there trying to push her little like tiny gas mower that she's had since the gas mower became a thing, because she's like 157 years old. So, she's got like the it's typical style, the old school style where you got to pull and hold on to the bar, in order to get it started and keep it going. But she's got it like a sock that she ties around it, because she can't like, she doesn't have the the hand strength to be able to keep it held. And the thing, I mean, I swear the thing's only like a 12-inch wide mower. Like it's like a gas powered version of those little ones with like the balls that pop as the wheels roll. You get for the kids. When we first moved in, I watched her one day, and it like took her probably 3 hours to do her front yard, and it's not that big.
Wow.
And I was like, I can't. No. I was like, can I mow your yard? Like, I don't want to even charge. Like, I'm not gonna take money from you. I would just rather not you try it.
Yeah, I don't blame that. I mean, they're good mowers, and most ones are really good. A lot of older stuff still starts.
Yeah.
Compared to a lot of the newer stuff, but it's just it does seem like a lot of those dimensions were way off with back then.
Oh, I tell you, man, she just and bless her heart. I mean, she, like, I let her do her backyard because it's not. There's only like a lot of it is like landscaped as far as like there's like gravel and things. So there's only like a kind of a postage stamp scenario to mow back there.
Right.
And I'm like, that's always shaded and it's flat. Why don't you go ahead and take her in that area? But I didn't have to, like, usually it's like, once every like week and a half or so, got to mow it, because we keep ours, at a good like 4 inches or so, keep it pretty tall. And there was, I mean, I didn't have to mow at all in July. I didn't mow a single time in the month of July. It was,
Wow.
and it wasn't because I was like, don't want to. Like, it just didn't even need it. Like, it was.
Were you even home in July?
It was crazy. Yeah, I got back in June. Well, I actually timed it out perfectly because my wife was doing the mowing while I was gone, and we went into a drought. And
She was probably mad.
I was like, oh, she was, yeah, she was, because she got like I mowed like the day after I got back because it needed. Because
Right.
I told her, I was like, don't, let it go for a couple of weeks. I'll take care of it, the day I get back.
Right.
So I did it then, and then I didn't have. That was mid-June. I didn't do it again until like the third week of July or something, or
Wow.
towards the end of July. I mean, it was crazy.
Wow.
We just didn't get any rain. I mean, we were in July. They were saying, the meteorologists were saying for the area, saying that we needed, like, when it was like about the third week of July or so, somewhere in there, they said that we needed like 14 or 15 inches, to be able to get out of drought area by the end of July. And that was like, there was like 4 days left.
Wow.
So it was pretty nuts. And we've thankfully had some rain now. So everything kind of came back, but going through, getting used to mowing like every week and a half, 2 weeks, whatever it may be. And then not having to, I got lazy, and then all of a sudden now we're getting like those every afternoon rain thunderstorms, so the grass is growing like 5 times as fast, and I'm over it.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I get to the same point. Usually about this time of year, I get to the same point, and that's usually about the time we gain a couple customers because they're at the same point where they're like, okay, I'm done cutting grass. I've been watching you cut your neighbor's grass for 5 years. I'm just going to let you finish the year out and take over, It's like, well, thank you. I really appreciate it. So.
Like, thanks for doing me a solid.
Yeah. You could have started like 4 years ago, but, we'll take it now. So.
Yeah. Well, it's just like the shrubs and stuff too, because I take care of her shrubs, and I had done them like I usually do, like kind of early spring, kind of that, that spring cleanup scenario, get everything kind of looking good and stuff. And usually it's good to go. But then like we've had all this like consistent rain where it's not so much like, cause it's not, get all in Carolina, we get a lot of that, like that heavy downpour stuff. And I'm sure being out there in Ohio on the plains and stuff, you get like that, where you get those, those deluges of like 1 to 2 inches in a few short hours kind of scenario. But we haven't really had that a whole lot this year. It's been more of a sustained, like 3 to 4 hours long, rainstorm, where every once in a while it comes down pretty hard, but for the most part it's like a kind of a medium rain, I guess I would call it. So it's kind of interesting because it's not, not used to that, but because of that, I've had to prune the shrubs like 3 times this year so far.
Jeez.
Because they just keep growing out, and it's been super hot too. Like, I mean, we get hot obviously, but it's been, I feel like I was just talking with my other neighbor, and they said that who's been here for like 157 years as well. And they said that this is one of the hotter ones they remember. And they're like old, so they like hot,
Right.
They were the first one. They're like, I don't use my air conditioner during the summer. I was like, you devil, like what hellspawn are you from? Like, what?
Yeah, I love those customers when they're like, it's hot outside. You come in and you walk in and you're like, whoa, okay.
Yeah, you're like, I'll go back outside in the cool breeze. I'll come back.
Yeah. Like, are you okay? Yeah, it's fine in here. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you go from outside where it feels like you have a hair dryer in your face, then you walk inside and you just basically feel like you're baking cookies.
Yeah, you're just like, okay, I don't need to cook I don't need to grill out right now.
Yeah, so, well, that's the way the neighbor that I take care of the lawn for, her air conditioning, she had her whole HVAC system basically went compressor, whatever, that thing, whatever makes the thingies spin and the thingies get cold and hot. It went down on her in the spring as we were starting to warm up, and so she's like, well, it's a good thing because it's warming up, so I just have a sweater on and I'm okay. And she's like, I don't really have to worry about getting it fixed until the winter. And I'm like, well, what about your air conditioning? And she was like, oh, I don't use it in the summertime. I was like, what? Really?
Right.
And like, the kids, love to, they see her in the yard when she goes around, pulls weeds and things. And so they'll go running over and hang out with her. And there's one day I went over they were sitting on our back porch, and so I went over and she goes, "Oh, I got to show you something. I was going to ask you if you can help me with is their TV getting repositioned?" She was worried it was going to like fall if she tried to fix it. And so I go walking in at the same time, like seriously, like I walked in and I took like 3 steps and my eyeballs were dry. I couldn't breathe. Like I was transported back to the Saharan desert.
Yeah, you're just like, this is very warm.
I like this. Like I had to do a double take because I swore I saw the reflection of a camel in the mirror of the hallway. Like it was.
You're seeing oasis all over the place.
Yeah, no, sir. Like I looked outside and see the kids and they're splashing in a pool that doesn't exist. Like
you're like, wow, when did she get a pool? I didn't know that she had one.
It was just nuts. I was like, how? Like it's just that oppressive heat where you just can't even breathe. You know?
Right.
Just. I mean, at least when you're outside, and I don't know if you're this way, but like the one thing I like, when you're mowing, like you're moving. So even if it's hot, at least there's airflow of some sort, right? Like as opposed to just nothing, like dead air.
Right. And that's one of the good things. I mean, a lot of people ask me like, how do you stand being outside in the heat? And it's like you said, we're constantly moving. We're not standing there just looking at something like, oh man, I don't know. We're moving. Yeah, I mean, the sun's beating on us.
Just sitting on the tailgate of the truck, just hanging out.
Right. Yeah.
In the heat. Well, and you get acclimatized to it a bit too. There is, a little bit of that, but I think, you're right though. It's about, it's about the movement, because I know, like today, I was doing my shrubs because they were overdue, and I like to hand prune. I don't like to use hedge trimmers because I don't really do the whole like shaped form stuff on mine. I just kind of like them to be a little more natural looking. But I did it for like 5 minutes, and I'm like, I'm getting the hedge trimmers. It's like, because it was like 95 out there when I was doing it, and I was just like, it is too hot to be hand pruning, like, because no movement, it's just standing there basically. So I was like, nope, gonna just go get the trimmers and make it happen real quick, and it was a good decision. I think it was. Yeah,
definitely a good decision.
Did you guys do? So I mean, obviously you do mowing because you're talking about mowing, but do you guys do a lot of, with those clients? Do you have a lot of that kind of maintenance, like the pruning maintenance and stuff, or is that more when you do like the regular landscaping installs? Yeah,
I would say like I said, there's 200 customers that we do on a yearly basis, not on top of our 45. Like our 45, we'll do mowing for. Some of them we do fertilization, irrigation for. We've had an upkick definitely in sales this year for irrigation because a company here in town like literally got rid of all their residential irrigation. So kind of and it was a bigger company, so that kind of helped us out because a lot of them were customers that they were already servicing that were ours. So they kind of was like, well, I didn't know you did it.
Nice.
You want to do it? Go ahead and take care of it. And so we've been taking care of that. But yeah, I mean, we do a lot of maintenance. A lot of mulch jobs. We go through usually in the spring. We'll go. I hate to say this for a small company. There's only like 3 of us, but we'll go through. I think this year we went through 190 yards of mulch alone. So,
all right.
Yeah, and that's a lot for 3 people to push out on a. On usually we start in. We don't like to start in March, but we like to start in April.
Okay.
So we'll go from April. And actually our last mulch job was actually literally 2 weeks ago.
I was going to say, I mean, with that amount of, because you're doing all the other stuff at the same time. So.
Right. And so, I mean, we, not every customer, in the spring, we try to knock out 2-3 customers a day. We have some bigger ones that we, we'll sit there and do them for a whole day. But most of the time we're once it gets to close to June, we're jumping on to prunings and throwing in some extra fertilizations. We're doing the irrigation startup. So usually May and June are one of our busier months because we're trying to knock out a lot of different other things too on top of, our mowing consistency. So it keeps us busy where we're like, one of my guys said that the other day that he's like, I used to work at another company, but I was literally just mowing and that was all I did. And I came home and I was done. and he goes, and you're like, okay, today we're not mowing. We're doing this today. We're going to go do a pruning. We're going to go do a mulch. We're going to go do a fir. I got to go do an irrigation startup. You're going to go do this. And he's like, there's no way we can do 10 jobs today, and then at the end of the day, he's like, wow, we did 12. How did we pick up 2 extra jobs, guy? And it's like, well, because 2 other neighbors that we do were like, hey, can you prune mine? Can you do this for us?
Yeah.
So that's always one of the positives of, growth is just to be able to know exactly, have the right customers and know what they do, have them know what you're doing sometimes. So,
oh, absolutely. Yeah. Well, that's why I love, pruning's my favorite. I love pruning. Like I said, I love hand pruning. Like the place that I took care of up in Washington it was a lot of, because they all wanted it just completely natural. They didn't want anything looking like it had been shaped or anything. So, and it was, individual cabins up in the woods. And so they didn't really want a lot of, there was very specific hours that we had set aside where we would run power equipment. And that was mainly only in the fall for leaves. And then we would, if there was a project that needed a chainsaw, we would wait until either we had basically super low occupancy if we could, or we would it'd be one of those things where literally you'd be working on one project and all of a sudden you hear a car door slam and you're like, oh, cabin 9's leaving. That's the only cabin that was here at the moment. So you'd watch them pull out of the driveway and then you're running down to the shed to get the chainsaw to go cut down a tree real quick before anybody gets back in the afternoon, But it was it was so peaceful though, just going okay, I'm taking care of this section today and I'm just going to grab my loppers and my shears. And I'm just going to go have a nice, quiet, relaxing afternoon. I love pruning.
Oh yeah. I don't blame you. I love to shape things. I know you're a natural guy, but I like to take something that's way overgrown.
Oh, totally.
And make it look like it was never, supposed to be there, and a customer's one customer we picked up, literally he's watched us because, we've been in the neighborhood for years and we've done some other stuff for him. And, we do about 10 houses in the neighborhood that we do prunings and stuff for. And he come up to me and he's like, hey, Scott, he goes, I tried to prune my bushes. He goes, but I can't get them round like you do. So if you could round them out, just, shape them just perfectly like a ball on the boxwoods and, kind of square off the burning bushes and stuff. And I said, sure. And I think, we did 40 total bushes all together, and a tree. And we were there 2 hours and he's like, you're done already? How are you done that fast? And it's it's just because we just pruned so much,
Right. Yeah. Well, especially, when you get used to, those, especially when you get used to some trimmers, where you know exactly how they, how they work, just like anything else, your favorite trimmer or whatever. But and then you get into that mode, right? Once you get that first couple down, then it I feel like it incrementally speeds up because you're just in the zone and you're just okay, 1 ball down, 2 balls to go, 3, 4, and you're just, you just wing right through.
When you get them in a roll, when you get used to it and you kind of, I like the ones that aren't way overgrown, but
yeah,
especially
if they get too leggy. I don't like when they get they get all leggy and then you just can't there's a couple that I got to take out at my house because they were overgrown when we got here, and I've been trying to kind of work with them, and they're so legged out that all you see is the stems on them. You don't really see, you can't really bring the bush back. So I've basically been, instead of clearing out the under, I've been letting that go. So now I'm just going to basically once we get into winter, I'm just going to basically take them all out and then let them regrow up in the spring from scratch, basically. Right. So,
yeah. There's certain ones I love to, burning bushes are one of the ones that I love to take. They could be huge and just be okay, customer be oh, well, I want to bring this down. Okay, no problem.
Yep.
And then they kind of look at it at the end and they're like, well, it's very sticky. And, you're well, I'll tell you what, next year you'll definitely have, growth on this and it'll look a lot better. And they're like, okay,
Yeah, you have those customers that are oh my God, what did you do?
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're don't worry, it's not that. I know it looks like it, but it's not that.
I had a customer that lost their mind on me with hydrangeas for the same reason, because they hadn't ever done anything with them. And
right.
so they had cut off just literally just the blooms of them before. And so like they were just this forest, you know. And they're like, what do we, it's blocking all my windows and everything. Could you cut these back? And I was like, well, I mean, how do you want it? Like, you want them like nice and fresh looking and you don't want to see all the stand. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, okay. So I basically like, not quite down to the ground, but you know, like down to basically the first offshoot. And they're like, and they came out and they lost their minds on me. They're like, oh my God, you're going to have to replant everything. Like this, you destroyed all of these been growing for like 10 years or whatever it was. And I'm just like, tell you what, if by next spring you want me to replant a bunch of stuff, that's fine. But how about we wait till then?
Right.
And they were very happy come the next season, obviously, and everything. It was like nice and bushy and full and all the stuff. But man, that was the most I think I've probably ever been yelled at by somebody.
Yeah,
because I mean
that's the thing, man. Like a lot of people don't realize, and especially when you start in your business, and if you don't have any experience in pruning is one of those things. Like they say it's easy, which it is, but it's one of those things is you don't know exactly how to prune it the right way. Like it can come back on you, and
oh, for
I
sure.
see a lot of newer guys that are like, oh yeah, I start pruning, and then they're complaining that the customers don't like the way I pruned it and all this other stuff, and it's. I feel sometimes you got to start on your own stuff and kind of keep with it, and then kind of just be like, okay, well, now I'm going to move over to my in-laws. I'm going to move over to my mom. And to my cousins, and then expand into it.
Yeah, find a neighbor that has a backyard that's unruly and doesn't care if you mess something up.
Right.
Because it does. I mean, you're right. That's a great point. It takes a couple of seasons because you need to understand how the growth patterns of them. Not just the particular plant, but where it's at, the shaded, non-shaded, all those different things, I mean, that's a lot, all that stuff comes into it.
Like you said, the growth patterns is one of the biggest things because not everything is blooming at the same time in the spring, and then you get like halfway down the season and it's bloomed, or you're in the spring and they're starting to bud. So I can't prune these. Well, if you don't educate your customer, then your customer's like, well, I told you to prune everything. Why didn't you prune the azaleas over there? Why didn't you prune this? Well, your azaleas are blooming. I got to come back in a month to prune those.
Would you like them to bloom next year?
Right. Their hydrangeas I got a couple months before they bloom, so I need to come back after that.
Well, and hydrangeas are big, because I mean I think that's one of the ones that guys mess up on quite often because they cut them too soon after they've bloomed. Like they start to wilt a little bit, and they're going through with the hedge trimmers and not hedge trimmers, but loppers, and cutting them down at the base and everything. And it's like, they don't realize that you gotta let it go just a little bit, get it. To me, it's like I always refer to like their hydrangeas are almost remind me of like a sunflower seed, as far as the plant goes. Like you got to let it kind of. Or corn or any of those type of things where like you got to let it look like it's dead and then go ahead and do it, to make sure it's finished off. But I don't. Do you guys have rhododendrons over there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, we do.
Because when I was in Northwest, like that's one of the most popular plants ever is rhododendrons. Like everybody and their mother has a rhododendron, and that's the reason I brought it up because like that's the one that I've had a fight with so many clients on of when to prune them. Because they're like, oh, go and prune them. I'm like, no, it's like you called me out too late. Like they're already budding for next year. I can't I can technically cut them back, but you're talking like 2 seasons before you actually see what you are thinking in your head right now. Which I think. Well, and what about you? I'm sure you've had experience with this too. Like the customers expecting things right in their head when they. When you go to prune stuff back or do that fall cleanup or whatever it is, and they have just expectation of like Better Homes and Gardens.
Right. I think it's more of like for me, and I've over the years of my 3 decades of experience, I've learned it's more to go to the customer and say, if a customer says, okay, I want to prune it all back, everything pruned back. You got to kind of like I said before, educate them and say, okay, well, these aren't going to be able to prune right now. This is not going to be able to prune for, 2 more months.
Mm-hmm.
I can do all of it now. I can come back. I can prune it to where you want it, the way you want it. But you're not going to have flowers on this one. You're not going to have this bloom next year. It's one of those things you got to kind of talk to them and and see what they want, because, like they say, customers always correct, like they used to say back in the day.
Sure.
But it's more of like, they are correct, but they're not experienced. And one of the customers that actually told me literally, we've been doing work for him for years, and we started pruning this year because the company that was pruning it decided they just stopped 2 years ago and just haven't showed back up. Wow. So he'd come out to me one day, and he's looking at everything, and we started pruning, and he didn't have no azaleas or anything that, were budding. It's all like boxwoods and yews and stuff. And I said, well, do you want me to prune this Japanese maple? I said, I can trim some off, kind of make it a little bit smaller.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of in a bad spot, or I can trim the other bushes behind it way back. They might not look good, but they'll come back because, they're way overgrowing it. And he goes, you know what? He goes, you're the professional. He goes, do what you think, because he goes,
did you do it for free?
I wouldn't expect He goes, I wouldn't expect you to come into my office, because he's a dentist. He goes, I wouldn't expect you to come in my office and be like, no, I think you really need to drill this tooth out, really, and give me a root canal, He's like, and I said, I've never heard that. I said, I've never heard of customers tell me that I'm a professional to do what you think that needs to be done.
Yeah.
And I said, that's appreciated. And he goes, everybody should realize if you're hiring somebody to do something for you, they know more about what they're doing for you than you do.
Yeah.
If you're hiring a contractor, the contractor knows more about putting in a door than you do. So that's why you call them, and, a lot of people do know a lot of different things, and that's always good, but we don't know everything. So that's why we have different, jobs. Everybody has different jobs. So that's what comes in handy. So,
yeah, I absolutely agree. It's, you have to be able to have, the customer has to be able to trust you enough to take your advice on things. It's one thing if you're like talking about maybe like a landscape design, and they're like, well, I'd really like a tree here instead of this here, and you go back and forth on that, and and ultimately you end up doing whatever, as long as it's not going to come back to you, because obviously last thing you want to do is plant something that's not going to live in the spot that they want. Like,
right.
I want this shade only plant planted in the middle of my yard that gets no shade whatsoever. You're like, you can't do that. But
no.
You gotta,
I would say this, that not everybody that says they are a landscaper is a landscaper.
100%. Yeah.
And I hate to say that, but
yep.
I know you guys are all listening to me, and there's tons of guys out there, especially in our area, that say they're landscapers and don't really have the experience. They've never done it before.
Yeah.
And they buy plants from your local garden center, nursery thing, which is good, but they don't know how to install it. They don't know how to put the right depth of dirt around it, the right compost into it, the right, amount of fertilization into it. So if you don't know how to do that, don't consider yourself a landscaper and try to outsell somebody.
Yeah, don't put it on your logo. Don't.
Right.
Like there's a lot of lawn care guys I know that try and be landscapers as well to get that extra, to pull that extra dime where they,
Right.
And the other thing too that drives me crazy is I hear guys say, or I'll see a post about it on social media where someone's like, oh yeah, I was taking care of this person's yard and they asked me if I could do a patio, and I was like, absolutely, and now I got to figure out how to do a patio. I'm like, don't do that to your customer.
Right.
Like if it's like a good friend of yours and they're long term or something, and they're like, this is something they want, and you're like, well, do you mind if I practice on you?
Right. Yeah.
Right. But kind of going back to what you said earlier, practice on yourself, family, friends, whatever, but don't take something and then try and figure out after the fact when it comes to that, because then it makes everybody else look bad.
Yeah, it does. It makes you and your company look bad sometimes.
Oh, absolutely.
Because recently this year, we installed some stuff for a big corporation about 5 years ago. So they're part of the same irrigation company, was taking care of their irrigation, but we kind of had all the schematics of everything when we did the first install. So we were called in to take over the irrigation stuff, because we're doing some other little things for them here and there, but not much. So their lawn care company came in, just one night over, the lady asked, the manager said, well, I need some new, I want some flowers. I want some color in the beds.
Mm-hmm.
So he came in one night right before we came in to start looking at the irrigation system that wasn't started this year. And, she's like, I need to get the irrigation started,
Mm-hmm.
I said, no problem. And he ripped out half the plants and told her, like, they're dead because the original landscaper didn't put them in right, and they weren't maintained. They never came out and maintained them. But we know what we're doing, so we're putting them in. And I come in, and all these new plants are there. And I said, interesting. And she goes, yeah, we didn't ask for this. I said, well, that's very interesting. First off,
It's always a good sign.
Wow. Right. And she goes, well, he told me that they installed wrong. And I said, first off, I said, you can look at it right there. I said, he kind of pulled, it was all drip line irrigation. Well, he pulled all the drip line away from all the plants in between mulching over the last 5 years. And then there's like about 11 inches of mulch around some of the trunks of these plants. And I said, first off, that's a good indication right there that you got too much mulch on here, first off. And I said, they're not healthy because they're not getting their water. They're not, getting any moisture to them, and they're just baking. And she goes, oh, okay. And,
do you like wearing 4 blankets when you go to bed?
Right. And, and she just kind of was like, well, do you think half this stuff will live? And I said, well, with us putting in the irrigation around it, yeah. But there's going to have to be other things change from here on out to make it live and survive. You're going to need some fertilization on it on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And then the mulch is definitely going to have to be all ripped out next year and put in. And then I said, you might lose some stuff between now and then.
Crazy. It almost sounds like a maintenance plan. You psycho.
Right. Yeah. So, but, there's different things that keep them going. But I think she was more happy that she had somebody there that had experience and knew what he was talking about than someone that was just like, sure, I'll get you color and just rip everything out and, tell her that, oh, it was all dead.
Yeah.
It wasn't dead, so it's like.
Well, especially when they can't explain why it's dead, when they say, oh, it's dead because they didn't do it right. Like, that's not an excuse. Like, tell me what they did wrong, maybe. As opposed to, like, it always drives me nuts when someone says, like, oh, it wasn't done right. Okay, well, how was it done incorrectly? Like, tell me how, because in that way, I know.
Right. Well, what was funny is when we started to do some of the irrigation, he showed up and he was telling me, like, oh, yeah, some of these are still dead. And he's like pointing to some of these bushes, and I'm looking at them like, these aren't dead. These are healthy. Like, and then like 2 weeks later, we had to get an irrigation control box got like 12 different irrigation control boxes. So it makes it real fun to run the system. And we come back with the other 2 irrigation control boxes for 2 different areas, and them bushes are gone. And I'm like, what? And then I see he puts in like these like little quart, flowering lilies in there. And I'm like, why did you pull out a bush that was bigger, like a 3-foot round bush that was healthy, and put in like 5 little, quart, lilies? Like, that's not going to replace what the customer is looking for,
That'd be good, because those lilies, those thing about lilies, they bloom all year long, so they're solid.
Right. So, right. So I'm like, okay, this is very interesting. Why you would take out something huge that's good looking and put in something small, but.
Well, that goes back to that, like when you said, landscaper, the difference between, a lawn care person and a landscaper, or I should say not, that makes it sound like there's one's better than the other. A lawn care person who's trying to be a landscaper, and doesn't know how to do those things. So, because I have absolute respect for anybody who just does the lawn care side of it and doesn't do the landscape design side. Like, you do you, because that's a hard enough job as it is. So all the props to you guys. But if someone who's out there who, like this guy who's like, oh, I take care of this, but you want me to do this thing, oh, I'll do it, and they just decide to throw things out there and they have no idea. They're not sitting back going, well, if I add this here, what's the depth here? What's the height? How is that going to look from this angle versus straight on angle? Are they even going to see the color inside? Whatever, all those different things that that client obviously said she wants some color in the bed, so she doesn't mean like let's just plant a bunch of marigolds that are 2 inches off the ground and call it good. I think that that too often they have the quick conversation and they don't go in depth.
Right. And that's one of the things also when I do a landscaping job for somebody, I kind of say, okay, what colors are you looking for? Is there any interesting plants that, maybe your neighbors have that maybe you would like to have, and if so, like point it out to me, or
absolutely. Where did this idea come from? Because, they saw something sitting at a stoplight and they were like, that traffic circle, that looks really good,
Well, right. Because people see things. They see stuff driving down the road. They see, another business that has something that's beautiful. And they're like, wow, I like that color. I like whatever that plant is, and then they're just like, okay, well, I want to get mine all redone. And then you come in and you put plants in there like, that's not what I was looking for. I was kind of looking for this thing that, I saw 4 businesses down and I kind of wanted that.
Yeah.
Well, if you don't ask them, then how do you know what they want?
Well, and the expectations part of it, right? Like, what do they expect it to look like? Because if you're doing a straight up install and they say, well, I'd love it to look like kind of like this place over here that, and they show you a picture of it or something and you go, okay, well, that's like 7 years worth of growth, on that landscape, like those Japanese maples that they put in to create shade over those benches there are not like 5-gallon trees.
Right.
So that's, that's part of it too. Cause I've had clients before that, where they're like, oh yeah, I'd love to have a yard like Mrs. Smith's. I'm like, okay, well, are you into the investment of waiting or are you into the investment of have it now? Because those are 2 different prices.
Right. And I think that's one of the things also too, is when you ask them their budget, you can say, okay, well, I know you're looking for like this huge stuff. What's your budget? If your budget's very low, I'm going to have to get with something small. Mm-hmm. You're not going to get as much stuff. It's not going to be as full. If you want it full, it's going to be a higher budget because we're going to put in either bigger plants or we're going to put in smaller plants and many more than normal.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And that's always one of the conversations, when you talk to a customer is like, especially with me, it's more of like, okay, your budget, what's your budget? What's your favorite color? What's your favorite plant? And I try to keep to that because, and don't go to the husband and say, hey, what's your favorite color? And he's like, green. I don't know. But you want to go to the wife, and that's one of the things I always kind of say is like, when the husband will call me out, like, well, we need to get our landscaping done. Well, can you make sure your wife's there? Because I want to make sure that she's happy more than you are.
Who are we doing this for?
Right.
Where is it coming from? I had a text come in just now that said, Phil's listening to us. We got some Phil in our feed. Okay. He said, but I want 5-foot azaleas that bloom now.
See, and that's going to cost you. And see, a lot of people don't really say that. They just kind of like, well, I just want something that's going to, a good size. And you're like, okay, well, what's a good size?
Oh, God, yeah. What's a good size? I hate that one. And I just want some good size tree. Okay, but that's very subjective and very costly depending on where you're, there's such a disconnect too with people in like the cost of trees. I don't see where they think that like, flowers or whatever flowers are, unless it's some like weird hybrid or something, but not bad. But then like, I'm like, okay, well, if you want a maple that is tall enough to give you shade already, then it's going to cost a lot more than one that doesn't. Like I don't just go and I say, okay, give me the $15 one that doesn't have shade. Give me the $15 one that does have shade. Like that's not how this works.
Right. And I think that's where I think it's confusing sometimes because people a lot of times go to like the garden centers, that are attached to your local building company and they do something for like $30 and they're like, wow, that's a nice tree. Let's get that. And then they put it in there like, well, that's not as tall as what I thought it was, because it was sitting on top of bricks.
Yeah.
Right. Like, well, you have to remember on top of bricks, in a bucket, it has to go in the ground.
Yeah, and depending on the tree, it has that, that shock time where it, it gets planted and it goes all nutso and then looks like it's dead for a bit because it's trying to figure out where the hell it's at and why its roots are not touching things like it used to. And all those other factors that happen when you do some of those trees. You got like, and then that the slow game though too, right? Like even if you get a tree that's a decent size, like it's not going to be this massive tree that your kids are swinging from next year. Like it's just not.
No. And then, it's also about like how, like a lot of times you got to tell the people the size of the root ball too, A lot of people, when I go to plant a tree, I'll say, okay, what size tree you're looking for? A lot of them are like, at least, higher than 6-7 foot. Okay, no problem. So I'll call up there to our nursery and I'll see what they got. And I'll be like, okay, well, this is what I got for you. Okay, it's, 10 foot tall. The root ball is 24 inches round. Okay. If I plant it here, and I'm looking around and say, okay, well, you might have irrigation here. I'm going to end up cutting the irrigation. I'm going to have to rerun that around.
Yep.
If it's too close to electrical lines, I'm going to destroy your electrical lines. So it's not going to fit in that spot. But if I move it this way to the left, I can do that without destroying anything. And then a lot of customers realize, okay, well, maybe I either go with a little bit smaller or I stick with what I can, depending on where it's at.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, sure, like I said, they'll just be like, oh, yeah, I'll just buy it at Lowe's. It's, especially when you give them the price, you're like, okay, well, the one I'm going to give you for 10 foot, it's about $500, just the tree alone. And they're like, what? $500? And you're like, well, yeah, because it's been in a nursery maturing just perfectly for this moment to be installed in the ground.
Yeah. So, for years.
Yeah. It started out as a little baby, and this is probably like 10 years. Okay. So it's grown a while. It's not small.
Yeah. So, that's why, man, my hat's off to nurseries, man, because good Lord, that's an investment.
Oh, yeah.
Anybody who has to you're like, okay, and this seedling I can sell for $500 10 years from now.
Right.
The
one
it's nuts.
The nursery you would buy from is they have over 320 acres, I want to say, and they have over probably about 60 employees that just nonstop go through prune trees, prune bushes back, and then they're pulling stuff nonstop. Regrowing, growing the perennials nonstop every year. So, they're constantly moving product in and out, but it's definitely an investment. It's something that, when they start a little sapling, you're not going to see that sapling for like 10 years, probably.
Yeah.
And it's something that, you're putting a lot of time and money into to get it to where you want,
Yeah, there's a huge investment into that. With the regular routine maintenance of it, making sure to keep it alive, basically, but just right. The base of it, and it was funny too because I've been a Arbor Day Foundation member for a long time, and this last go round, I was like, I'm gonna, because usually I just do the the minimum amount or whatever. I was like, this time I'm gonna do like the whatever it was, like $25 or $30, whatever. I can't remember. It was like on top of my normal thing to get like some free, you And so got them in the mail, and that tells you the size. and it was but the thing I like about the Arbor Day Foundation is that they'll send you, they don't send you just a random selection. Like it's specific to your area. So they're like, okay, what's growing right now in North Carolina? Okay, these are. So we'll give you a selection of these trees. They're not giving you stuff that, an aspen or something that's not going to grow, So I like that part of it. But it was funny having Xander help me for those listening who don't know, Xander's my 6-year-old. He's helped me, plant them. And he goes, whoa, we're planting it. How long before they look like these trees? And he's pointing to like the oak trees in the backyard, and I'm like, yeah. well, these are crepe myrtles, so
maybe when you're a little bit older.
I don't think these might not even be around in 50 years when they, it's like, because we got like a Japanese maple, and then which is definitely not going to be anything anytime soon.
No.
I have a hard enough trying to keep the deer away from it, but we got like that. We got, I can't remember what was the other one. We got some kind of fruit tree of some sort, and then 3 crepe myrtles. along with
Nice.
it. And of course the crepes, I mean, they're already like good looking saplings because I mean, crepes are basically weeds anyway. So
Right.
they look nice when they bloom out and they're fun. The thing I like about them is like, if you keep them pruned low and then you just get that, it's almost like a bonsai scenario, you know, where you get that big fat trunk, you know, on the base of them. But
I love those.
you know, even those are going to take forever.
Take years to get there. Yeah. And I mean, the Arbor Day is awesome for that. I mean, we did buy some from some trees from them. I think, I've owned my property 8 years. They were arborvitaes, the green giants, and they're just now getting 6 foot out of 8 years. So I mean, it tells you, you know, even when they're fast growing, you're like, yeah, and you're like, yeah, okay. After a while, you're like,
it's a slow game. It's a slow game.
Yeah,
that's where. Then it's funny too because that's where, you know, especially with like my yard because you know, we want to move out of this place and get some property somewhere, and so you know, that's like something I look at. Like I maintain the stuff that's here, but I'm not really forward thinking of like, oh, you know, I could redo this whole bed or do this or do that because I'm like, we could move in a year. Who knows? You know, like, and I'm, you know, we're leasing the place that we're in. So like, do I really want to up the value for someone else? I don't really, you know.
You're just like, do I want to rip all these bushes and put new ones in? I don't know.
Yeah, you know, like I'll keep it looking good. Like I'm not going to, you know, let it get overgrown, but I don't really want that. You know, I mean, you know, spending the couple $100 on mulch for the front part last season, I was like, yeah, I want to because it'll look better. I was like, but I'm not going to mulch it like I'm not going to mulch it like twice a year by any means or anything.
No. Well, I don't blame you.
You know, I'll let it go down. Of course, I'm the only one. Everyone freaked out in the neighborhood when I mulched it because I like black mulch. I'm just that kind of guy. And
there's nothing wrong with that. I don't
everybody out here hates it. They're all that like. You either better do that bright red god awful mulch, or you know the stuff that's been like super food dyed thing, or you know pine straw, of course, which is the big one.
Yeah, see, we don't have red mulch was a big thing around our area for a while, and now it's getting to a point where only one of our 6 suppliers carry it now.
Wow,
so it's kind of gotten down to where it's one of those things. You know, it's hard to convince somebody to move over, but it's going to get to a point, I feel, in the next couple of years around us where it's either going to be brown or dark brown or black.
Yep.
You know,
what about, you guys don't do pine straw up there, do you?
No, we don't.
I didn't think so.
Yeah.
I hadn't really noticed when I was driving through Ohio because that's, you know, obviously one of those things you look around and see things. But well, that's the funny thing here. You know, like all these people use like pine straw, and I'm like, well, but there's no pine trees around. Like here in the Northwest, we were raking it up, and here you're putting it down.
Like, okay, that doesn't make sense.
In fact, actually, there was a when I was I remember when I was in the military, there was this particular general that came through that was like in charge of the post for a while there at Bragg, where the units, like there were certain areas of the post where units had to like take care of. It was almost like adopt a highway scenario. Where like it was like, okay, now it's the next like 2 months it's your unit's turn to like, you know, take care of the spot or whatever. And it just so happened that our unit had to take care of this area where there was these trees along this roadway, and the post commander's wife decided that she didn't like all the pine straw and pine cones and everything. You know, it just looked haphazard. You know, like looked like it wasn't taken care of, basically. Maintained. So she wanted him up, and so he made a decree that we were to clear out all the pine needles and pine cones from this area, and so we went and we did it on a weekend, which was awesome, and got everything cleared out, and then everybody decided it looked absolutely ridiculous, which it did, because you know it's like. Didn't look natural at all. And so, shit you not, a week later, we had to go and put back the pine straw and pine cones.
My God.
Because we had taken them to this area on post, like basically kind of like not a facility per se, but just basically is where all the stuff got dumped. Like all that stuff. Anything that got cut down or whatever else. And so we had to go back and like load up trailers and bring it back out. We're out there with rakes, like pushing the stuff back out. And then we were like taking the pine, and we went full tilt with it because we were just like, if we're gonna have to do this stupid thing, we might as well do it stupidly, So we're out there, and we're like tossing pine cones, like we've got like handfuls of pine cones. We're like, okay, one over there. Oh, that one doesn't. One over there. Making sure they're spread out. It was crazy. But ever since then, I've had like an aversion to pine needles as far as like the pine straw thing, and I don't know. I don't like the look of it personally, but a lot of people do.
I get it. Like a lot of people on that way do, and to me, it just doesn't look right. I just don't like it either. The look of it.
Yeah, and it doesn't. To me, it's not like it should serve the correct purpose to me, which is like with mulch, like a good mulch anyway, one that isn't just over treated, but good mulch. Like it'll break down within a season pretty well, and it starts getting pulled back in, and then you put more on top, and it's that nice thing. It creates that's not that good soil, and does all the things it's supposed to do. But pine straw doesn't really do that. Like it does eventually break down, but it's like throwing dry spaghetti on the ground. It doesn't. No matter how much water gets on it, it's still going to be there.
I mean, it's like it would drive me nuts trying to do a cleanup with that stuff.
Oh, it's horrible, dude. It's horrible. Like when I moved down here and I started doing landscape, it was just like we go down these jobs and like leaf season. Yeah.
Right.
Just trying to blow the leaves, but not the pine straw, and just horrible. In fact, actually, the first one I went out to do, the first job I had to go out and do leaf cleanup on, I actually got in trouble because I pulled all the pine straw because I didn't know.
Here you go. Here it all is.
I'm like pulling it up. I'm like, where the hell did all this pine straw come from?
Right.
And then come to find out it was supposed to be there. So
you're like, well, I cleaned the beds out. That's all I'm supposed to do.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was told. I was like, clean out the shrubs and the beds, get all the leaves out. I'm like, cool, perfect. Like,
right.
There's one section I was like, this is great. I can roll this stuff up like a mat, and all the leaves are in it. This is awesome.
Right. You're like, that's the best way to do it.
Yeah. Good thing pine straw is only like 50 cents a bale or whatever it is. It's like dirt cheap.
I heard it was really cheap down there.
It is. Yeah, so. It's super. I honestly don't know off the top of my head what it is, but I mean it's like something like $3 a bale or something like that. It's not much at all. But then thing is, I mean, a lot of guys make a good money doing the pine straw though, because they'll buy a bale for, if you get it on sale and stuff, you get it the right part with, when they're trying to offload it, you can get it for a couple bucks a bale, and like $2-3 a bale, and then the guys are charging the equivalent of like $15 a bale, basically, to put it out, and it's super easy to put out. I mean, it's easier. Technically, it's much faster to put out than mulch. I will give it that. Like, because you can carry a bale over. You don't have to wheelbarrows and everything else or whatever, spreaders and stuff. You just take your bale, drop it off where you're going to put it, or, bags, I guess, if you're using bagged mulch, that kind of a scenario, you lay it out, but then you're just, you pop the bales off just like a bale of hay, and then you're just grabbing it and just spreading it, with your hands, and it spreads super fast. I mean, I will say that there are advantages in the application of it, but I don't know, visually, I just don't. I would much prefer a nice fresh mulch look.
Definitely. Mulch, a brand new mulch job will definitely make a yard look beautiful.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and how many times out there where you're at, have you had it where, I'm sure you've had it quite a few times where you do that, you have a nice nice freshen up and nice fresh mulch, and then you get calls from the neighborhood saying like, hey, Bob's lawn looks really awesome.
We get it all the time. Definitely. I mean, and that's where I think a lot of times, where good advertisement comes in hand by putting your name on your truck or having your equipment or yourself logoed up.
Mm-hmm.
Even just neighbor walking by, sometimes we'll get that. They'll be like, hey, who did your mulch? It looks really good. And that's where it's like, a customer, if they like what you do, will give out your name. If they didn't like what you did, something's wrong.
Yeah.
You should try to fix it. But, they'll give your name out and willing to, they're willing not to lose you because they know you're still going to be around, even if you do, a guy down the street.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I think that's where it's important to make sure to communicate with your customer too, because if you do a job for them, even if it's the only job you did was to take care of their lawn, you still need to check in with them and ask them what they think. Good job, whatever else, and that because they're in fact, Wayne was just talking about this on his show last week. He was talking about how I think it's like 96% of customers will not complain. Of those who have a complaint, I should say, 96%. You're only getting the ones who actually speak up are only about 4% of them. So you got to have that communication and say, what do you think? Everything okay? Even if it, check in every once in a while, like, so you still happy with the services? Is there anything we can do differently? Whatever, because then that, not only does that kind of urge them on in case there was something that they needed to, like, whatever it may be, like, well, the edging looks kind of haphazard, or I don't know, something, whatever, pick your poison, but some random things you go, okay, well, we can definitely fix that, because then that bolsters them. So then when they get that, if someone says, what do you think about your lawn person? I'm looking for somebody. They're not going to just say, well, our guy's okay. Instead they'll say like, oh no, he's great. Like, he checks in with us. Like, the other day I talked to him about the edging, and one of his guys came out the next day and like went right back over it, and great company, like two big differences. And the only thing you did was pick up the phone or shoot a text or whatever else.
Right. I think good communication with all your customers is definitely key. Even I hate to say it, but it's funny because probably 40% of our mowing customers will not talk to my mowing crew if I don't show up. They'll literally text me, or if they see me out there, they'll come out there. And some of the guys are always like, what is going on? Why are you standing there talking for 20 minutes while we're working?
Right.
But it's like, well, because I'm communicating with them, I'm making sure that everything's going good.
Sometimes that's the hard work.
Right. But they know that I have my customers that, like, I'll show up and I'll just go straight to the door and be like, hey, we're here to mow grass, just seeing how you done. And then, then they're loading up at the end and finish blowing and like, okay, Scott, we're done, time to go. And it's like, okay, nice talking to you this week, and I'll see you next week for your talk. So,
right.
And it's you get used to it, and I think it helps them. I feel like, like I told my wife a long time ago, like, more of my customers are like family to me than they are customers.
Mm-hmm.
I know things about like their cousins, their kids, their nephews, their moms, their dads, than I do anybody else. So I feel like they're family to me, and it's one of those things that a lot of these companies are like, don't get to know your customers. They're just customers. They're just going to pay, and if you screw up, they're leaving you.
Right.
Well, you're not talking to them. They're definitely going to leave you.
Yeah.
First off, but
just
if you're
a waste of time.
Them, yeah. If you're talking to them and you know what's going on, and they know what's going on with you, maybe they won't leave you. And that's one of the things. Like I tell a lot of times when we pick up new customers, like 90% of our customers have been with us for at least 10 to 15 years. And that shows something when you're actually going to a constant neighborhood, or, constantly every week mowing that person, for 10, 15 years. People are going to be like, man, I know I just moved in this neighborhood for 5 years ago, but that guy's been there 5 years in a row and they haven't changed anything. And they must be satisfied. So maybe I should, contact them and see if they can take over my yard, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You never know. Well, yeah. And you never know when they're looking. That's why I always told my guys, like, don't like always pretend as if someone's watching, because somewhere someone is watching at all times.
Oh yeah.
It's not even necessarily the person that you're doing the work for. It could be the person down the street that's doing it, or the person driving by, whatever it may be. Like, that person might be looking, they see the truck and they're like, oh, I need to talk to them about getting some landscaping done. And then they cruise by and they see, like, hanging out, smoking a cigarette, like doing nothing. Right. And they're like, oh, never mind. I'll find, like, obviously they're not busy enough to have to worry, Like
right. And yeah, I think that's helped me in the past, because I did have a bad employee at one point that was actually drinking on the job. And one of my customers, way back, it was like 10 years ago. And I didn't realize, like, that, customers keep an eye on you if they're home,
Oh, right.
Didn't even know he was home. And he seen me, watched the guy, was watching out the front, what was going on, because the guy was supposed to be weed whipping, kept going back and forth to the truck, and then seen him drink it. And he kind of came out to me in the back when I was finishing up, and he's like, because I just want to let you know, he goes, I don't want to lose you as a, customer, or don't want you to lose an employee, but your employee's drinking. And I just want to let you know that, because I feel like you've done good rate workforce. And I don't feel like that person's doing bad for you, but it's something that you probably need to address, so it doesn't continue on.
For sure. Yeah.
I think that's one of the things. And like you said, you never know nowadays. Everybody's watching. They're either watching from their Ring camera,
right.
The doorbell, anywhere. They're watching you. So make sure you're doing a great job for them every time you're there.
Yeah, it's their money you're spending when you're on the clock. So
right.
at their house, you're earning it, obviously, because they haven't paid you yet. They pay you after the fact, but you're still, it's their dime that you're earning. So you gotta make sure that they feel like they're getting their money's worth out of it. And more and more these days, as the prices start going up, and I don't know, what is your average cost? It obviously changes for size and stuff, but because guys are talking about, throwing out that like $70, $80, $50 a lawn. Like, where do you fall?
Our minimum is $70 a yard.
Okay.
Just to start, and it's funny because you go to some, we have some, our smallest lawn is really like probably the size of a truck and a trailer, front and backyard, and then you get some of these into some of the nicer areas, and you tell them, like, okay, well, it's minimum $70. Well, Joe's kid down there, he's doing it for $35.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. If you want him to do it for that, go for it.
Do you have his number? I'll have him do my lawn too.
Yeah, right. And but then it's more of like, okay, well, who recommended you to me?
Yeah.
If so and so recommended me to you, ask them about how my service is. And they'll tell you, and you're going to just be like, okay, well, that $70 is worth it.
Well, with that 70, is that like pretty much like strict like mow and blow, or is there anything else involved with that?
That's mow, weed whip. We blow, we edge every other week.
Gotcha.
So it's full service. So when it comes to mowing, so I think that's one of the things. Like, we have noticed that a lot more around our area, where a lot of companies are getting in the business where they're just showing up and mowing, for, the $40, our minimum's $40, and they show up, and you look at them, and you're doing a yard next to them, and they're in and out quicker than you, because they're not weed whipping. They're not
right.
edging,
Yeah.
And you're like, well, why would you pay somebody for that? But it's one of those things, I think, as a customer, that, you want to make sure it looks all good for them. Even if you got to take that a little bit of extra time to, double cut it, go and double cut it. What's it going to take for you? It's going to lose on some of your profit, but in the long range of a year, you're going to profit out anyways for that customer.
Yeah. Well, in the longevity, that's,
yeah.
It's key in this industry. You have to have that clientele. If you're constantly turning over clients, then it's a no-win situation. You got to have that consistency, because that's what helps you build that route density, which is king. You start driving all over town just to do lawns. It's
right.
It's no bueno.
Yeah, that's another thing. You want to kind of stay close to. A lot of people are always trying to go all over the place. And, I've talked to a lot of newer guys in the last couple of years and said, don't try to get everything in one area, right? Try to get everything in one area, not all over the place,
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are like, oh, no, I want every job. And it's like, no, you don't realize it. Your gas is going to eat you up in the long run. You're not going to get where you want to be if you're just driving 5 miles down the road. So,
yeah, your gas and your that windshield time is a killer. You got a couple of guys that are driving 15 minutes out of the way to go mow a postage stamp and come back. That's 30 minutes of windshield time. Another 10 total for if they're sprinting to offload and load back up again. I mean, it adds up so fast, and pretty soon you've got 2 labor hours that you're not even getting paid for.
Right, and that's the hard part. I mean, yeah, we do have some customers that we do kind of still go all over the place for like that, but and that's only because we've had them for literally over 20 years. So we kind of go out of the way a little bit.
Yeah.
But most of our route when it comes to mowing is so dense that it's like we're in a neighborhood and we're doing like 5-6 jobs instead of going one house here and then driving 2 neighborhoods up to do another house. So
yeah,
and I think that's where route density, and a lot of people need to realize that especially when you're first starting, like start in one area,
Yeah. Well, that's if you want to stretch out like you were talking about, with those customers who've been with you for 20 years and you still have them, like you still have them because you built your business model to be able to do that. You're not doing it because like you're trying to scrape by on that lawn that that you are going out of your way to do. You're doing it because you're like, you're a loyal customer. That's my give back to you because, I might break even if I'm lucky on this lawn, but you've been with me for a long time, and that's, the appreciation of it. And I'm sure that you've gotten some business, whether you know it or not, from them too. So.
Right. All right.
Got to keep it going.
You got to keep moving. Got to keep going. Yep. Definitely.
Speaking of moving and keeping going, we're about up on time here, so. Yep. I know you got like a nap or something scheduled for this afternoon.
Yeah. My 3:00 afternoon nap.
You old people have to have a middle of the afternoon nap to because having a nap before the early afternoon nap wears you out, so you have to have a late afternoon nap in order to to balance things.
Yeah, we have to have our nap. Come on. Even if we're in the truck, we just stop and just take a nap.
Oh, yeah.
But no, that's what happens when we get at this age. So, yeah.
Sit back and relax and enjoy it.
Take a quick nap and then go back at it.
Always. Just long enough to get cooled off to where you forget how hot it is outside.
That's right. Yeah. And then you go back at it. It's like, was it hot? Was it not? I can't remember.
My shirt's dry again, darn it.
Right. Yeah, I'm going to get it wet again. So.
Well, Scott, thanks so much, man, for jumping on with me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. Anytime.
Yeah,
definitely, that.
We'll definitely have to do it again soon. It's always fun chatting with you and just shooting the shit and talking lawns and stuff. It's always good. But for all of those out here listening on DGP Radio, and if you're listening to this on the replayed version, wherever it is, the Spotify's and the iTunes and everywhere else, make sure to follow and like and share and all this stuff, and then head over and say hi to Acme for me when you get a chance, and give him crap, especially if you see him on a mower. Tell him he's doing it wrong.
Definitely.
Thanks, brother. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Talk to you later. Bye.